Thanks, Paydirt, for having Western Areas along to the battery event today. Thank you, Minister Johnston, and any of the consular officials that are here today. Thank you for being here as well. Look, I think Western Australia is uniquely positioned with the key elements for electric vehicles. And really, a lot of investors that we speak to now refer to it as an electric vehicle revolution. And I think if we cast our mind back 5 years ago, we probably haven't really even heard of the concept of the EV, and today it's common vernacular. We hear it all the time, and you know, I think Minister Johnston is right. We are really well placed in this state to be a major contributor to that, but we obviously need to be aware that we obviously need to get the minerals out of the ground. We need the people to do that. We need the infrastructure to process it, and we need the energy to feed that. And I really hope that the West Australian government and the wider Australian government recognise that fact and bring all of those areas together, so that we can meaningfully participate in that as we go forward and provide the battery minerals that go into those batteries, whether they're vehicles, housing, or the like, and make ourselves globally relevant for that. I'll cover the nickel market today, really focusing on EV batteries. Normally we talk about our projects and exploration and those things, but given this is a battery metal conference, I will really focus on the market to start with, cover off quickly some corporate things, and then how we plan to feed the nickel-specific mineral going into those batteries as we head forward with our new long-life project called the Odysseys mine. That's located out in the Cosmos project. The usual standard disclaimer, I'll let you read that in your leisure. So moving into the nickel market. And I'd like to thank Paydirt for putting nickel first. There's a lot of lithium rock stars here today, but it's important that we give nickel its time in the sun. But I mean, the headlines, these are a few headline grabs from the last couple of days, and this is where we see you know, EVs coming into the common day of everybody's everybody's language and speak. EV is in the headlines every day in some way or another, and for us, we're always quite interested in how they're going to find the nickel for these vehicles, because at the moment nickel is a relatively small market. It's a sort of 2.5 million tonne a year market. EVs are looking to need half of that market going forward, and it's pretty important that we do that. For people that don't know, an electric vehicle battery, or a battery's got a cathode, a flux, and then an anode. The cathode is full of either lithium, nickel, and then the lithium brings it through to join up the anode, and that's full of graphite. So when we talk about batteries, the cathode is the nickel end that we really focus on. Just a couple of sales stats on electric vehicles. You can see the growth rates are quite large. The expectation for battery electric vehicles going forward is quite severe, and that's where we see that market really start to move forward, and the demand for nickel to be very, very strong in the future. About by 2030, we're seeing the nickel market requiring 50% more, or 1 million tonnes of nickel effectively going into batteries. One thing that we haven't seen until quite recently is vehicle manufacturers moving down the value chain or upstream in the mineral manufacturing chain. But we are starting to really see that now. SK Innovation and Ford recently signed an MOU on an EV battery joint venture. VW recently had its battery day, and Tesla had its battery day earlier last year as well. And they're really talking about now getting themselves integrated into the battery manufacturing space. They're looking at now getting involved in all forms of the batteries, whether they're lithium batteries, whether they're nickel NCM and NCA batteries. They're getting involved in all of those. VW had basically a small, medium and large way of looking at batteries. Small cars, similar to a petrol car today, might have a lower spec battery, like a lithium, an LFP, a lithium phosphate battery. The medium-range cars will have like an NCM or a nickel-rich battery, and then premium vehicles will have the high nickel batteries or an 811 battery, meaning 8 parts nickel, 1 part manganese and 1 part cobalt. That's a lot of nickel going into those batteries, and the premium applications, we do see those batteries being quite important in the future. BMW recently announced that their iX series will be using 811 batteries, so that's really important to us as well. Just a bit of a breakdown of the battery market as we're seeing it today. We thank Golden Dragon Capital for their circle here. You can see the battery market at the moment is very much dominated by Japan, Korea and China. So CATL, LG Energy Solutions and Panasonic are the 3 major battery producers that we see at the moment. We've had active dialogues with all of those parties, or the people that feed all of those parties. It's pretty interesting that at the moment Korea and Japan don't have a nickel smelter. So the most common way for people to get nickel into their batteries at the moment is to take concentrates similar to what we produce, bring that through a smelter and a refining complex, and then take that through to precursor manufacturing. So Korea and Japan at the moment are dependent on toll treating concentrates through smelters in other countries, whether that be somewhere like BHP's Nickel West smelter in Kwinana, or through the Chinese smelting industry, and then bringing that back through their refineries. So it is quite interesting that there's, I guess, an opportunity there for us to value add and get products into those refineries directly, rather than those other countries being dependent on those smelting requirements. And just a bit of a growth chart on the high nickel cathode materials. Oops, sorry, wrong one. You can see the growth chart, and this is over the last few months. It's quite a recent chart. The high nickel content batteries are very much in demand, and the material going into those is very much in demand. And we are really seeing that coming through now when we speak to people that are involved in the market and are looking to buy concentrates. Some of the other countries that I think are not probably well represented there is the US. The US is starting to really show that it's starting to keep an eye on where are they going to get their nickel, their lithium, and those sort of minerals from. And you've seen President Biden recently say that he's now looking abroad for people to bring minerals into the US. I just hope that they're not too late to the party, because there's obviously finite resources out there, and a lot of people are positioning now to get themselves into that market. I guess just the chart to the side there. Did it again, sorry. Chart to the side there, this is where we're talking about needing 1 million tonnes of nickel by 2030. So it's very important that when we're looking at nickel projects, you want to be looking at the long-run nickel projects that are going to be in production for a long period of time. That's going to be where the best value for money is going to be for your investment dollar back into nickel companies. But what we're seeing specifically with offtake parties at the moment is very strong inbound interest from people that are directly linked or directly manufacturing batteries at the moment. There's no surprises. The big donut that I showed before, the main battery manufacturers at the moment are very, very keen to secure supply and secure long-run supply. Strong EV growth numbers have been very important as well. We've seen just recently, this morning, they're expecting now China to sell 2 million new energy vehicles this year, which is basically 1 for every person in Perth. So it's a relatively significant increase in sales just for this 1 year, and that's underpinning that growth rate of nickel required. One of the things that I think we would have to make a bit of note of would be the Tsingshan Group converting low-grade laterites in Indonesia into matte. That is a process that can be done. It's not a new process. The question would be the carbon intensity of that. People want their batteries to be reducing carbon emissions, not increasing them. So that'll be one hurdle that I think needs to be addressed there, and they're looking at green energy to support that. The other thing is we actually need all of these forms of nickel. If we're going to feed that chart up there with the nickel that we need affordable nickel. We need nickel that can actually feed that market. Otherwise, we're going to fall into the substitution category, and we don't want that. And the other chart that I've got there is the types of batteries. That 811 battery, or that high nickel battery that I spoke about, that's the growth rates that are expected there. That's the jaws that are opening up. It is going to be a relatively significant market as we head forward. Just to quickly talk about our offtakes, we have 2 offtake parties at the moment. We've got BHP Nickel West in WA here. Obviously, they're out turning nickel sulphate quite soon. They're very close to turning that plant on. And we have Jinshuan out of China. Jinshuan is China's largest nickel cathode producer, and I think they're the largest nickel sulphate producer out of China as well, which is very important. So the majority of our product now, we can see a direct line of sight through to battery manufacturing. We do see Jinshuan also now investing downstream into precursor. We do see the future of precursor manufacturing for nickel being involved in integrated projects where they will take a smelter refining complex. They'll outturn a nickel matte that they'll take through to a precursor manufacturing stage straight away, refining through to sulphate and then direct feeding that into precursor manufacturing. The way that they're removing cost out of the process of getting nickels into batteries and getting EV batteries into a cheaper way is to remove steps in the process. Crystallisation of nickel, we think, is one of the first processes they're going to remove. It's a relatively expensive area for the in the manufacturing process, and as they've removed that crystallisation and taking wet products straight through to precursor, there's a cost out process, and those will continue. They will get better at doing that. We did offtake 2 years ago, and it was pretty interesting to see, I guess, the pricing that we received out of that. What we could see is that Nickel West and Jinshuan and potentially Nickel West could see the value and use of our product going through to nickel sulphate, and we did receive a relatively large uplift in our offtake contracts, and we are receiving full benefit from that into this financial year and as we head forward. One of the products that we produce out at our Forrestania mine site is a high grade, somewhere between 40–50% nickel sulphate precipitate. You can see it in the bags. Did it again, sorry. You can see it in the bags there. It's a high grade product. This is one of the products that we would like to produce a lot more of, and we've got some projects coming through now to do that. The product is a direct refinery feed, so it bypasses the smelter. Normally you take concentrate, smelt, refine, but this one goes from concentrate, that 45% material, straight into the refinery, and then that can go straight through to precursor. It's got a significant increase in payability over and above our normal products, which is very good for us, which is why we want to produce more of it. But when I roll back to what I was saying before about Japan and Korea not having a nickel smelter, this is the product that actually avoids the smelting process altogether. They can take it straight through to their refineries and straight through to their battery manufacturing areas. And when we talk about carbon intensity, removing the smelting phase, smelting is an energy intensive area of the process, and that's where it's really important that we can take that energy intensive carbon footprint out. Concentrate, refine, it's a bit of a holy grail for a Korean or a Japanese manufacturer at the moment. I will just point out that we have got a new project that's starting to feed that area at the moment. It's a heap leaching of our nickel scats, and that's just been commissioned now. So that will start feeding more of that process and more of that product, and that is really where we've been targeting our products heading forward to maximise the value we can create out of that. Just in the value of time, I will just point out the project I'm going to speak about next is the Cosmos project. It's in the middle of Western Australia, almost smack bang in the middle. We do have a long life project called the Odysseys project that we're building out there. And when you want to go and buy stock later today, stock ticker's WSA, so don't forget to go and buy some stock after you've heard the story. I will just point out we've got a class-leading safety record. We've been maintaining that for many years, and we just think that reflects culture and the way that we operate our businesses, and we do take pride in that statistic, and some of our long-run LTI free days are there. Moving on, we've got some significant nickel endowment that we're starting to develop. Part of it we're already mining out at our Forrestania region, but in the time I have left I will focus on the Cosmos area. At Cosmos you can see the big bubble is resource size. Odysseys is the mine we're developing. AM6 is currently in feasibility study, and that's going to add significant life to that project. And Mount Good is another large resource that we're going to move through scoping study shortly as well. So just to give you a feel for where Odysseys is and where the Cosmos mine is, it's right in the middle of the Leinster-Wiluna belt. You've got Mount Keith, 11 million tonne per annum mine of BHP to the north, and Leinster to the south, so it's right in the middle of a significant nickel processing jurisdiction. And the red arrow points to where our tenements are in the middle. And what we're developing there at the moment is called the Odysseys mine, which will include some extra areas. But there's 211,000 tonnes of nickel in reserve there. It's a significant production hub that we'll have there for the next 10 to 15 years, and we think there's significant upside to move that forward as we go along. Current mine life is around that 10 years on just the Odysseys ore bodies. I'll just point out Odysseys is to the Odysseys ore bodies are to the north, AM6 is to the south, and that's where we've got that 211,000 tonnes of nickel at the moment. The actual project itself has had full investment decision a few years ago, and we've got significant resource upside because the 210,000 tonnes of reserve doesn't include any of the Mount Good, and there's 300,000 tonnes of nickel that sits in Mount Good. On that slide alone, there's 500,000 tonnes of nickel, so it's a significant nickel endowment that sits out at the project. The production profile for Odysseys is there. That'll keep us in production for many years to come. And that does not include the AM6 reserve that we released last year. The actual project itself, where is it at? It was flooded by Xstrata back in the day. Now what we've done is we've rehabilitated all of the existing workings that were there, and we've started full decline development across to the ore bodies. You can see we're very close now to actually mining first ore. One of the catalysts that we'll expect to see in the stock over the next few months is actually the announcement of first ore development. We're very close to that, and we continue to develop across to these ore bodies. Odysseys is one of those mines that once it's up and operating, it will be very strong as far as financial returns are concerned. All of the capital investment occurs up front. We are fully funded for that capital investment. Once it's up and operating, it has a low all-in sustaining cost, and it will ride the nickel cycles quite well. One of the things it is doing is using shaft haulage infrastructure, which is not something that's new in the world, but it's a little bit different for Western Australia. We don't see that very often. There's a picture of the current civil works that have been completed for the shaft head frame. That's the main brain of it, the control centre for the shaft. That will actually sit over here. These holes are where the winder drums go. The big cables will wind onto that. And the box cut you can see behind there, there's a raise borer that's currently drilling the return airway that's here. That will be equipped for shaft haulage, and you can see the raise bore's already halfway through the first leg of that, and then they'll come and they'll do the second leg, connect them together, and the shaft haulage infrastructure, that's what it looks like when it was actually put together in Africa. We bought that, shipped it to Australia. You can see it's there now at site, ready to be assembled on top of that concrete pad. So first ore is going to be around the August, September this year, and first concentrate production about 12 months later once we've built up enough material and built our processing plant. So it's going really well out there at the moment. Look, I've run out of time, so I won't cover too much exploration at all, just to say that of the nickel areas that we want to be exploring, we think we have dominant land holding positions in a lot of those. Forrestania is obviously where we've got our current operations, significant greenstone belt. We hold 100% of that. The Cosmos area, where we're operating the Odysseys mine, we have 100% of our land holding up there as well. And then we've got some joint ventures around some of the emerging areas and some of the more well-known areas. With Metal Hawk, we've got the Fraser South area, which is the southern end of the Fraser Range. Kanana East and Emu Lake are up north of Kalgoorlie around the Poseidon Silver Swan area. and Western Gawler is our large greenfields area. Look, really exciting area for the group in that we've confirmed that there's intrusive ore bodies there, or sorry, not ore bodies, there's intrusive mineralisation there. We've seen that there's sulphide material in multiple of those intrusions, and this is really the elephant country for us to explore in. We're looking for the big ore bodies out there, and we think that that'll pay us dividends over a longer period of time. I'll wrap it up there. Come and see us at the booth. We've got a lot more information about the exploration, about the operations, and enjoy the rest of your day.